of the race. I mean, some 8 miles an hour since lap 5, and that's just what you see here. This track just chews the tires up and makes them fall off as far as speed. When we say tires fall off, it's really just the speed fall off that we're talking about.
Dave, you've got more?
Marty, on this 38 car for Kasey Kahne, very loose in practice. Stuart Cooper, the crew chief, told me he was going to tighten this race car up for Kasey before the qualifying laps. And right after he busted off that very quick qualifying lap, he radioed, "Boy, you tightened me up a lot." It was in the track a lot more than I expected. So I followed up with Stuart Cooper, the crew chief, to say, did you get him too tight? Will this car go way to the tight side at the start of this race? And he said, nope, I think we're going to be good. And so far, that car is staying fast underneath Kasey Kahne. Dr. Punch?
And back behind him, Kyle Busch, echoing what you just said, I cannot believe that 38 car has any rear tires left. He is sliding everywhere out here. How is he hanging on? He said, as far as I'm concerned, you heard him say before we went to commercial a minute ago, he's losing the car from the middle of the corner out. He's just abruptly sliding up across the racetrack. They're discussing on the radio right now about possibly taking a rubber out of the left rear and trying to figure out, this Jason Ratcliffe there, trying to figure out what to do to be able to help his driver exit the corner without losing the nose of the car.
So as you can see right now, Kasey Kahne and Kyle Busch have opened up about a 5-second lead.
I'm telling you, this is scary what he's doing with that race car. It is out of control.
Yeah, I talked to Kasey before qualifying too, and he said that in practice, I was asking about tire wear. He said, yeah, we wore both rear tires out and had to quit practice. I think he's going to do that again.
Well, there you see the top 10 at the top of your screen after 23 laps. When we come back, we'll take you up to speed, get you set on everybody in that top 10 field, get the story details here at Atlanta. Kyle Busch and Kasey Kahne have sort of made it their private show here in the early going in the NASCAR Nationwide Series event from Atlanta, the Great Clips 300. And Kyle has a 1.6-second lead over Kasey now as those tires are starting to give up. And let's go back and show you exactly how it happened again, because we've had 3 total lead changes between these two.
Well, Kasey's car has just been extremely loose. I mean, just to drop the flag, the back end of this car has been hung out. Finally, it's taken its toll on the rear tires.
Yeah, and that's fast for a while, but you can't, not at this racetrack, hang on to the car that long. And he literally has run the rear tires off of this car. He'll just have to hold on for these next 20 laps or so.
There's the top 5, but you got to go quite a distance to pick up third place Jamie McMurray. In fact, 6 seconds behind Kasey Kahne. Let's take you up to speed. Dave Burns.
And Marty, he started in the 7th position, which it sort of feels like he's running back there as we pan way back to find Jamie McMurray in that 88 car. But he's moved his way up to 3rd, and then he radioed into his crew, hey, am I even catching the leaders at all? As if to give a nod to the changing lines of this racetrack. The answer back was, well, one lap you catch them, and the next lap you don't. Drivers using every inch of this racetrack to try to gain positions. Doc?
This is Carl Edwards' favorite racetrack. Why? Because he got his first ever nationwide and Sprint Cup win here on the same weekend back in March of 2005. Here's the better news. Carl has been told his car is very consistent now. Others are dropping off. He is not. The car feels good on the racetrack and not sliding. Now here's the bad news. Carl just said, I think the alternator just quit on the car. Jamie.
And right behind him, Kevin Harvick. If you walked up and down pit road today, most people would tell you they don't know what kind of car they have. Well, not the 33 team. They said they unloaded near perfect. They were so happy with the car in practice. And mind you, this is not the same car he won with 1 year ago. He's been quiet on the radio, just slowly charging up front. He's already gained 4 positions since the start of the race. Mike.
Ryan Newman's crew chief Nick Harrison said he began the weekend with a fairly typical intermediate setup. They started to experiment a little though. They changed the front end settings, tried to do some things they did in Bristol, and suddenly the car came to life. So far during this first run, Ryan Newman quietly confident, hasn't said much over the radio. I spoke with Nick Harrison just moments ago. He says he feels real good about his race car early on, Dave.
Mike, you know how some teams circle a racetrack on the calendar and they say, hey, this is where we're going to something. Well, crew chief Matt Pusha circled Atlanta for Paul Menard this year as a must-change setup track. Last year they had a debate about whether the track would loosen up or tighten up in the evening, and Matt actually won the debate because the track loosened up. But he said, we learned a lot about what to do to tune on this race car, and I circled this race and said, that's how we're coming there this year, and so far they've been moving up in position since the start. Doc?
And back in 8th position, Joey Logano driving a brand new Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. Joey right now complaining that the car is very, very tight. Kevin Kidd said, we know what this track will do. As the race progresses, the track gets freer and freer. So we're going to start you tight. We know you're going to complain, but on the first pit stop, we will loosen you up ever so slightly. Mike.
Well, Doc, whenever you start a new relationship, typically there are some growing pains. Well, that remains to be seen whether or not there'll be those growing pains between crew chief Ricky Byers and driver Matt Kenseth tonight. Tonight is the first time they've worked together. Byers, though, says he reminds him an awful lot of Greg Biffle, a driver he's worked with a dozen times this year and had some success. They finished second twice, so Byers really leaning on what he learned through Biffle, comparing it to Kenseth's style. It seems to be working okay, but not perfectly yet. Kenseth saying the car is just a little bit tight, Doc.
Behind him, local boy driving the 32 car. We told you about Reed Sorensen, who grew up in Peachtree City, Georgia, about 8 miles from Atlanta Motor Speedway. They think tonight's the night. His last trip to Victory Lane will try 2007 at Gateway, July race, over 3 years ago. He hasn't said anything on the radio, but they told him before the race, don't worry about what happens in the sunshine. We got to be good when the sun goes down. Jamie.
And Brad Keselowski in the 22 behind him, getting some pressure now. He was closer to the 32, but he's slowly falling off the car, not up to his standards. You see him twitch a little bit there. He says he's free on exit, tight in the center, and this is a driver who loves a tight race car, so they definitely need to work on it as the sun goes down, but right now he's hanging in there around the top 10, Mike.
Well, Jamie, if you ask Jason Leffler's crew chief Eddie Pardue how he feels about this racetrack, well, he'll be real honest with you. I asked him that this morning. He just smiled and said, well, we haven't had real good results here. And because of that, he feels like they had to work extra hard during practice to try to dial in this race car. He was able to draw some confidence from his driver, however. Leffler, on the other hand, really likes this racetrack, likes to work the different grooves. And he gave his crew chief some confidence by how hard he was able to attack the racetrack early on. So far, just a little bit loose for Leffler, looking for some grip, but optimistic once the sun goes down, guys.
All right, thank you for the up-to-speed gang, as we'll also check in on Josh Wise, as he started in the top 10, but he has fallen back into the clutches of Ricky Stenhouse. Wise 13th, Stenhouse 14th. And for Stenhouse, what a turnaround. Remember his 5 DNFs in the first 12 starts of 2010? Well, he's had 0 in his last 10 races. That battle continues. Meanwhile, up front it is Kyle Busch, but the lap times have gone down. 33.4 was his last time around, and he just went around Stephen Wallace to put him a lap down, which means we now have 20 cars on the lead lap here at Atlanta. 42 laps before we had our first caution. There's the truck out there on the front stretch picking up the items. There were several spots where they've already stopped, and we've got our first round of pit stops under this first caution here at Atlanta. Let's send it to Dr. Jerry Punch.
And remember Kyle Busch talking about the nose sliding. He said the back end of the car began sliding a moment ago, so they've decided to put some air in the left rear and take a rubber out of the left rear. Try to make an adjustment to get the car to grip. Now, the 60 car, Carl Edwards, remember he talked about an alternator issue. It may not be as bad as he said. They're going to get 4 tires on the car, and Carl said, do not clean the grill. Hey!
On your screen, Jamie McMurray, they're going to make a right front air pressure adjustment because that car is loose on compression. Your leader, Casey Kane, or actually second place, Casey Kane on pit road right now as well. They're going to make no adjustments to the car. They tugged a little bit on the left front valence as they put Sunoco fuel in as well, and he's going to drop a position on pit road.
As you can see on our Nationwide Insurance Race Off Pit Road, it was Jamie McMurray picking up a spot, but Reed Sorensen picks up 3. Ryan Newman drops 2. Kyle Busch, he's your leader, and he's led 1,500 laps now this year. Back here as the sun sets at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Kyle Busch is our race leader, and he is going to take the outside. More on that. Let's first check in with Dave Burns.
And Marty, you guys were talking about how hard Casey was driving that car and how loose the 38 car was getting during that first run. Well, this is the right rear tire that came off of Casey Kane's car. And if the tire guys, when they look at the tires on top, what they want to see are some tread depth, and all the way across from the outside shoulder all the way in, there's still some depth there. This after 42 laps on the track, so pretty good tire wear so far.
Pace car has turned off. There you see Kyle alongside with Jamie McMurray. Casey Kane is in third. Carl Edwards, Kevin Harvick, Paul Menard. That's your top 6. And you heard the call. We're back to green.